He'll try for the fast wall. Kazva is not reacting. There's one gap. Viper, can he get it closed? You know what? It is scrim time, isn't it? Golden League just round the corner, and everyone needs to polish their game. And how do you polish your game? How do you experiment it without sacrificing that juicy spot at the top of the leaderboard? Scrims, which is exactly what we've got as we hop into Viper versus Kazva. And they have been scrimming for a few games so far today. I believe this is their 4th one of the day. They just played this. And it's the closest I can get to absolutely live, just because if they're playing custom games, you know, you can't watch them. They can disable the watch tab, but we're able to catch it immediately afterwards. So we'll see how this one plays out. China versus England on our side, though. And it's going to be Kazva playing as China. Now, we did cast Kazva playing China the other day. And I've got to say, dude be looking hot. I was really, really impressed. I feel like Kazva has remarkably stepped up his China game, and he is a force to be reckoned with in the upcoming Golden League. Anyone who's starting to like tap hard into that Chinese potential, I'm keeping an eye on, because I think China is still very much a lethal civ simply because of a lack of data. Some people have been playing it, but most of the ones that have been exploiting the outpost rush. Anyone who's able to maximize the potential of this civ without outpost zerging has a clear advantage, because I think it's the most underutilized civ at the moment. The other one up there right now, in fact, is England with the Abbey of Kings into fast castle build. Now, it hasn't been proven. It's definitely failed a lot from what we've been seeing recently. But I think these are two potential builds, and as a result, these are two potential civs, that if you master them, if you get ahead of the curve, right, if you evolve the meta, you could come into Golden League in the first event and absolutely dominate the field. And I think these two players actually have the skill potential to do so. Like Viper, that's a clear given, right? But Kazva, I think he gets written off unfairly sometimes. I think, you know, yeah, he's getting on a little bit. Yeah, he's a little bit of an old lad, but he's definitely got a lot of potential, a lot of wisdom as well. And sometimes that wisdom can be put to good use. I mean, this lad, he's 28. He's been in the scene a while. He hasn't had a chance to earn the big buku bucks that the likes of the Snake have, but he's always been there. He's always just been outside of that potential area. And I really feel like, as I've been watching him evolve as an Age of Empires 4 player, I've been greatly impressed by the pace at which he's improved his game, especially compared to some of the other, like, you know, absolute god tier players in the game. So opening up, though, he is going to be straight onto that deer line. Everything's nicely compact here. And I wonder how many sheep... Oh, my God. Oh, holy mother of all that is Welsh. This right here is a beaut. 10 sheep. That is... Oh, man. Guys, that is so much economy. That right there, it's not 2.5k. That's actually 3,000 food surplus to float you. On top of the deer here as well. This is a really nice start for Kazva. Viper, on the other hand, I think both of them only went for one scout, and there's still a decent amount of sheep out there. I think they've caught the majority. There might be like a few stragglers remaining around the center, but most of it has been cleaned up. And most of it seems to have gone to Kazva's base, which is a big boom for him. Of course, England, you know, they got some of it. Viper got a decent amount of sheep. He doesn't really care if he doesn't get the majority for his own economy, because he can just instantly go farmland, right? One of the big benefits of playing England is how cheap your farms are. But it is important to deny as many sheep away from a civ like China, because this civ doesn't want to go farms. They actually kind of screw with their power timings if they go farms, because I really do feel like China right now, their biggest potential unlocks mid-feudal, start castle. Like, those are the two areas you really hone in on. It's such a powerful timing due to how efficient you're able to be with your early resource skew. You don't need too much wood compared to other civs, because if you drop a single racks, it's as effective as 3 racks. If you drop a single stable, it's effective as 3 stables due to the Imperial officials and their supervisors giving that extra 200% production speed on those military structures. And it looks like we aren't going to get any meaningful Abbey of Kings. No quick, fast castle rush coming out of the Viper. Instead, he will be going for your standardized council hall. A reasonable timing as well. Cracking 4 minutes, it should be complete. Invested 2 people in this, and it looks like he might be close to having the required quantity to build wheelbarrow straight away, which is definitely something on the rise. A lot of these England players have been heavily emphasizing wheelbarrow. In fact, even sacrificing their feudal timing to get it a little bit quicker. And there you go. Instantly into that. On the other side, there is going to be the tech up as well for Kazva. He did go for the Barbican of the Sun. An interesting choice here, somewhat understandable given where his gold is. But then I think the big issue when you do this, going onto the gold like this, is it kind of makes it obvious what you're going to do, right? So if you're going with 5 people into gold, and Viper sees this, with a Barbican of the Sun here as well, he should already know that you're rushing castle. You're not going for like a slow crawl up. You're not going for like a secondary TC. You're instantly just looking to blitz it into castle as quickly as possible. The reason is that actually, if you want to go for a slow castle up with a more stable economy, without revealing your hand, having some flexibility, usually what a lot of players will do is they'll drop the Imperial Academy and then they'll just tax, right? They'll just tax. As a Brit, you know, we don't really have much to offer the world, but we do make enough money off our own people by taxing them. And that's exactly what you do is China a lot of the time now. Like, the Imperial official is very powerful now. Ever since they doubled the tax gather from you carrying 20 to carrying 40 by default, and then also the Imperial Academy acting as a tax drop-off was a huge boon to the way this Civ worked. Especially with this layout. He could have actually dropped the Imperial Academy right here between the TC and the mill, and then he would have had minimal downtime via his supervision when he's dropping off taxes, because he would have instantly been tapping them into the Imperial Academy from the lumber camp and from the mill. Viper, has he started to build up the force yet? I believe we have got a few Lombo moving out. Not really your force wielder level of power, though. Only 3 at this stage. Shouldn't be hard for Kazva to repel, but the thing about Kazva's build, as we already highlighted, he doesn't want to repel you now. He doesn't want to even acknowledge your existence. He's actually going to accept that Barbican's Son is enough to hold you back. You will see the preemptive stable being dropped, but this by no means means he has to spam units out. He's going to get 1 or 2 horsemen, which is always good to start off with, especially if there's only Lombos in the field, which he has scouted out really well on the side. But other than that, I don't feel like he needs to heavily invest into feudal. In fact, I feel like with this build, if he builds too much military now, he's baiting himself out of his clear win condition, which is castle. Meanwhile, Viper just continuing to scale up that nice little farming district. And it looks like he's actually got quite a lot of people on gold. With no blacksmith being dropped, I think Viper's trying to snake his way to castle too. This could be interesting as well. Like, free longbowman isn't enough that you're invested in feudal. It's enough that you might force your opponent to invest in feudal, though. And I think that's why he's done this. And the longbow can reach in, almost sniping a villager out, but able to peel away just in time. Of course, Barbican's Son will prevent him from going any deeper, but this might force Kazva to build even more horsemen. That being said, like, Kazva has to understand there's only 3 lombos and we're 7 minutes in the game. The numbers aren't adding up, right? Like, if anything, Viper has to be going for castle as well. So Kazva now has the choice. He can either rush his opponent or he can rush castle, knowing that his economy is stronger than that of England's. And horsemen, they will move across to clean up the lombos. Lombos, although frustrating for the Imperial official, will not be able to kill anything here. And now the scouting position, Kazva understands his opponent isn't building anything else now. He's clearly going for castle. So Kazva can just complete the race and beat him to the punchline. Realistically, Kazva did not even need 3 horsemen, and that's why he now needs to find some value in this throwaway force. And he needs to be quick as well, because you can see Viper already understanding that the goose has been cooked, the plan has been revealed, he needs to wall himself in. Viper fully understanding what the greed is going to cost him. Not enough England players do this in this situation, by the way. If you're going to rush castle, this is the correct play, especially on a map like Altai. Respect the fact of what you're potentially surrendering, especially when you're up against a Civ that can reach castle so much quicker than you can. The horsemen, they do wiggle their way in. But as we see, you don't need longbowmen as England. Just have shortbowmen. It's only 5 damage each, but it's enough to scare away the horsemen. And remember, because you're a villager, not a ranged unit, the horsemen don't get bonus damage. They can't even try to trade you out, as 2 of them just won't be good enough. But vital info gained. And Kazva, he doesn't quite see the King's Palace, but he has to feel it's coming soon. And while he'll continue to patrol around and get a feel for what is in Viper's base, now he needs to get a force that, instead of getting a feel, it can just grab a hold and never let go. And that's a problem for Viper, because if Viper gets choked in, he has very limited resource and very limited space. Altai is a map of budgeting, but you're not budgeting resource, you're budgeting room. Okay, you know, this is not the hotel where we've got a nice little stable that you can stay in for the night. Like, Jesus ain't going to be born here. There's not enough room for Jesus to be born here. You've got very limited room. So anything you invest in is a heavy cost, because you might be forced to delete it if you need a transition that badly. Something that we haven't seen players do much in the past, but I feel like as the meta continues to develop, players are going to become conscious of this. If I run out of room and I'm boxed in my base, I might just have to delete things that are already there. And Palace Guard are zerging out. And although a Rax has been built and the upgrades are underway, this can be a very big weakness for England. It's definitely been a problematic thing I've highlighted before. Like, having to upgrade all the way from Vanguard Man-at-Arms, you can say, oh, it's not the longest tech time. It's still 30 seconds. It's still a unit and a bit that you're missing from your production line. That's a heavy hit if both of you have just raced into Castle, and you can already see the impact of this. As Kasva, not only having no need to go tech up the same way England is, he also has the Supervise on both of the Stable and the Rax, which is juicing out Lancers and Palace Guard en masse. Those Palace Guard are going to force the garrison out, but there's no room here. Viper has to pull those villagers back to the safety of the primary TC, and these Palace Guard with full missile resistance can tank a lot of damage. It looks like it was a blacksmith upgrade coming out from Kasva, understanding the only thing he'd be facing here is a lot of arrow fire. And well, if you thought Viper's base looked small before, it feels even smaller now. He hasn't secured the backside of his base, really. Yes, he gets these walls up, but as you can see, it's the Palace Guard and the Lancers just lurking around here that's going to be a bigger problem. And he's just trying to get the techs as well, but it just all feels too slow. The Palace Guard move through, forcing a garrison again. And even if you don't kill anything, it's the economical cripple. What are you doing right now? You're barely gathering any resources if you're the snake. You are being snaked by Kasva here. Lombo being picked apart. A few villages as well. And this is starting to sting a little. You can see Viper, despite having that tech up now for a minute, maybe two. Well, when you look at the eco count, he's close to being behind Kasva still. And Kasva's going to make sure that's the case as he looks to assassinate another one of these villagers. Villagers able to move away just quick enough. No charge coming up from the Palace Guard. And although the Palace Guard numbers are starting to deplete, like I said, the bigger detail here is when you look at the income tab. This is ridiculous. If you put all of Viper's resources together, they're like half of that of Kasva's. So even though their economies are even right now, they aren't on even economical ground. Besides the fact that you have Supervise inflating Kasva's economy further, it's the fact that he's actually using his. It's unhinged and it's unburdened by the rampant abuse of these Palace Guard. Kind of feels weird that a unit called Palace Guard, it's not really more of a turtle unit as well. Like, aren't you meant to defend people? Instead, they're just out here bullying villagers. Like, what the hell was this? I don't remember reading about the Emperor's elite guard just leaving the palace to go bully the local peasants. Goddamn peons. On this wall then. Viper, he can't get it up. Take that as you will, but I meant the walls. He cannot get these walls up. He'll try for the fast wall. Kasva is not reacting. There's one gap. Viper, can he get it closed? Oh no, it's still open. It's still open. He's in. He gets denied. So close to completing the enclosure. And Viper is shaking his fist right now and shaking his head as Kasva slivers his way, ironically, into Viper's base. And there was another gap here that never got completed either. Oh, that's the worrying part, folks. I wouldn't be surprised if Viper comes and completes this wall. He might not realize this gap here as well. That could be his kryptonite. Military count still even, but the economical lead now for Kasva. And Kasva, his military forces counter what Viper has. Viper still hasn't switched over. There's still no man-at-arms. There's still only early man-at-arms. And he might not call GG, but it's starting to feel that way. How long has he had idle economy now? How frequently have we looked across at the eco count, the pop count, and seen the idle villager count at half of his effective economy? There's just no clear answer. If he got the walls up, maybe he should have went for the stone walls as well. That could have been even better play. But, he has to go on stone. That's another issue. He never actually bothered to tap any. He didn't have any strong point defenses. He didn't have the Rax district. There's so many didn'ts here. And not many dids. Other than he did a big doo-doo. And Kasva's here to clean it up. And this is before we even get into the clock tower, right? No siege coming out just yet. This is just rampant abusive raid from Kasva. Kasva is going to have a finicky issue soon. If you look at this berry line and the lack of deer, sheep, etc., he's going to have to make a hard pivot into farm soon. He could, in theory, continue to extend out to these pocket ecos, and I think that's going to be his intent, considering England is only building Lombos still. And even if they do get Rax units out now, it's no stables, it's no knights, which means that Viper is going to be very hard pushed to find a way to raid your pocket ecos, and it allows Kasva to just maximize his greed in this game. Palace Guard are back again. Always lurking at the back here. A lot of bells ringing. And when it strikes noon, Viper might feel the need to just leave, because this is getting a little bit hard to repel. His farming district hasn't extended. His military district is taking up more room. And now going to the archery ranges, we might finally see the crossbowmen coming out. But it's so late. Looks like the enclosure will finally be complete for Viper. But now with religion in Kazva's hands, and these relics, more importantly, banked, and sacred sites soon to follow, this eco lead that had already been built up by Kazva will continue to extend. And now he has options. He can either just amass a new military force, box his opponent in, or he can do this. He can go hard on the stone, give himself either the flexibility to drop a forward keep, or go for a second TC of himself, and make sure he remains ahead of his opponent's economy. I'm expecting a keep drop, though. This feels like a keep drop 100%. You box your opponent in, you refuse to let him extend anywhere, and you make sure that with this slow static force, he doesn't even have the quickest route towards your base. And I have to point out, by the way, Kazva did over-calibrate in the beginning of this game. Like, this looks pretty dominant right now for China. He could have done this opening into Castle even quicker, remember. He built 3 horsemen. He actually slowed himself down a lot more than he needed to, considering his opponent only built 3 longbowmen. And that was info he was fed back by the scout. He got a little bit paranoid. I respect why he did, but it doesn't hurt him. And this really just kind of presents how much more powerful the Chinese economy is compared to the English. And it looks like the monk will be denied here. The blind monk. That's a blind Wololo if I've ever seen one right there. He wasn't even in range for the Wololo. It didn't even delay them killing him. Oh, blimey. It looks like he's still getting the lion's share. 4th one is rolling back now. 2 sacred sites controlled. I think this is a lot of income for Kazva. Kazva, he's only got 11 people on gold, but he's over 1,000. Well over 1,000, in fact. And although the farms are starting to build up for Viper, this is not only a boon to your economy, but also a burden to your base. You're running out of room. We already highlighted this. These farm areas use up a lot of space. It's why a lot of civs, when they play Altai, they try to minimize this factor. They try to actually go for these loose economy points, like the berries, like the deer, because otherwise, like all this finite resource in land that you need for your big bulk military when you get late game, you want 10 racks, for example, isn't there because it all is just inhabited by farmlands. Problem with England is that's your strength, right? You want to play into farmlands. So you kind of have a hard choice. Either sacrifice your primary base and be forced to uncomfortably move out, or you have to build your farmlands outside the safety of your base, like we're doing some real-life kind of castle versus farmlands scenario, but then it's just very easily raidable by your opponent. And finally, the first man-at-arms has come out for Viper. This took a little bit longer than I think he was hoping, but he finally got there. The question is, what can he do with it now? Question is, can he find his opponent a little bit too loose? Because Kazva has gone ultra greedy here. We saw the second TC, but he went for a 3rd one, and he's still extracting more stones, so he's ready for a keep drop if need be. Hasn't really extended his military influence, though. Still only 1 racks and 1 stable that can effectively be free of each, with the assistance of the Imperial officials. And the slow sneak in begins. Kazva's about to see it as well, as Viper jumps onto the deer line. Several villagers here to be butchered, but a healthy lead right now. Kazva up at 79 to the 57 eco. And remember, he got the Imperial Palace as well, which means he gets the Song Dynasty, allowing him to produce these villagers every 13 seconds, as opposed to the standard 20. Giving him an effective TC count of about 4 to the 2. Because you minus 7 seconds, like you're building up 7 seconds, right? So you got 21 seconds surplus. So these 3 TCs are actually 4. Meanwhile, Viper only has 2. One of them was the landmark. So he's being out-eco-scaled hard. It's very important that he finds a way to punish Kazva for this very loose spread that's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Otherwise, this is just going to be surplus built for Kazva and complete domination and control in favor of the Chinese. And forces moving out on both sides. They're both going for the keep drop. Oh, I don't think this is quick enough from Viper, though. Lancers are going to waste the time with the crossbows. This is too many villages. Kazva's going to beat him to the punchline. China, with the quicker build speed, is going to just falcon punch Viper out of the center mass here. Garrison comes out onto the keep. Keep construction continues for Viper, but it feels too little too late here. And with the Nesta Bees as well. The village is ready to repair if it gets attacked. Nesta Bees making a good trade on the crossbow line. More of them rolling out as well. And with the keeps close in range of each other, Viper will be forced away from the center, and this keep will not be a keeper. Oh, that is such a read from both sides. You can tell both of these lads played the same game for several years. You can see the feeling, the momentum, understanding, the critical detail being the center of this map, and both of them moving it in for it at the same time. But the difference maker is not just the quantity of villages that Kazza brings, it's the speed which they bring with them that gives the edge over. And although there are buffs that Viper gets to benefit from due to having this keep down, aka the network of castles, as well as building units out of it, it's hard to now do anything out of this thing. He builds a treb. Meanwhile, look what's been built by Kazva. It's the boiling oil. Anything to give him an edge to burn all these structures down. And although the treb is out, I just don't know what you do with it. Because your opponent's now just going to build his own trebs. He's going to build into springholds. In fact, Kazva, he could just go to a siege, and it doesn't even matter. Viper understands fully where he's at. He doesn't have a quick strong point to leverage to push into the Chinese economy, and thus will surrender the game over to the Turk. What a way to win this. I mean, Kaz, it's really well played. Like, I've got to give credit. Like, that keep drop, it doesn't seem like much. And a lot of people are going to sit here right now and go, Viper GG'd out early. Why? Well, consider what's been happening in his base. He was constantly getting raided. He never established a strong economy. And then his opponent fought back and went and eco-boomed. There's something that Viper discovered too late. When he discovers this, his only choice is to go for that forward keep drop because he needs a soft staging point to build trebs out of and also station his army at. He doesn't have that option when the keep goes down from China. Instead, even if you're able to build up enough siege to burn down Kazva's keep in the center, it's achieved its goal. The delay lasts long enough that Kazva's economy will be double yours. And it means he can double up your military force and replace probably having surplus in reserve, whereas Viper is still at a fragile state where he needs to field a sizable military force, but then also spread his economy. Being the smart lad he is, he doesn't want to waste more time on this in this scrim, gives it over, respect due to Kazva, as he takes a pretty dominant win as China up against England.